Welcome to the RV Entrepreneur Podcast, the weekly show for nomads, work campers, RVers, and entrepreneurs looking to earn a living or build a business while enjoying the RV lifestyle. This week's host is Rose Willard. Let's settle in and enjoy the RV Entrepreneur Podcast, brought to you by RV Life. This episode is sponsored by Wholesale Warranties.
Protecting your RV investment means being ready for anything. An extended RV warranty from Wholesale Warranties is the best way to make sure that if an RV failure happens, you can afford to get back to enjoying the RV life as soon as possible. RV warranties are available for motorhomes, fifth wheels, and travel trailers, new and used, across the U.S. Visit wholesalewarranties.com for a free personalized RV warranty quote today and hit the road with peace of mind tomorrow.
Welcome back, friends. Rose Willard here on another episode of the RV Entrepreneur Podcast. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Kristin Hanes of the Wayward Home. Kristin is a journalist turned blogger who hopes to inspire and teach people how to live alternatively in an RV, campervan, sailboat, or tiny home. She started her journey to tiny living in a Toyota Prius and has since lived in a Chevy Astro minivan, a sailboat, and now a DIY Sprinter van. Her website, The Wayward Home, reaches 2.5 million visitors per year and generates six figures from ads and affiliates alone. That's amazing. She also hosts a podcast called The Wayward Home Podcast. In this episode, we'll dive into all the details on how to grow, scale, and generate income from a niche blog. If you think it's not possible to create a six-figure income from blogging alone, this episode is for you. Kristin's currently sailing in Mexico on the Sea of Cortez near Baja, California, and I can't wait to hear how she does it all. So with that, let's jump into the interview with Kristin. Hey, Kristin, thanks so much for taking the time to join me today on the podcast.
You're welcome. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation because there are a lot of RV entrepreneurs out there that are currently or maybe wanting to start a travel blog, and I'm sure you'll have some really great info to share with us today. So I'm excited to talk about the travel blogging and more specifically how to grow and scale a niche site. But before we get into all that, right now you're on your sailboat in Mexico, correct? Using Starlink to speak with us?
Yeah, I sure am. I've been in Mexico for a couple months on the boat and currently cruising down the coast of Baja. We typically spend winters and spring here, and then on the summers, we are in our DIY Sprinter van traveling around the U.S. So moving around with the weather in our two tiny homes.
Well, that is awesome. So can you get into a little bit more about your story and how you even came to starting your blog?
Sure. So I used to be a radio news reporter, actually. And starting in 2016, I lost my job as a reporter as that newsroom totally downsized in San Francisco. It was KGO Radio. And I was also currently with my partner, Tom, who had a sailboat, and he wanted to sail, and I wanted to join him in doing that. And I was just racking my brain, like, how can I make a remote income that allows me to travel more and not be stuck in San Francisco? And it was really hard to figure out. Coming from the radio background, those skills don't necessarily translate into many other types of work. Like, I know plenty of my radio friends just haven't found their footing after getting laid off because it's hard to pivot and figure out what to do. And so I did, some freelance writing. I did some travel writing. I did voiceover work, and all of it was just like not really creating enough income for me to travel full time. And I was reading an article and I stumbled upon how one woman made money blogging, and her name was Michelle Schroeder Gardner of Making Sense of Sense. And in that article, it said she made $100,000 per month blogging. And at that point, I was floored because I didn't know blogs made money. I had no idea. I had personal blogs over the years where I just, wrote about what I was doing and my life as a news reporter, and just they were very personal, like personal stories. And I was like, how does this make money? So that really got me intrigued about blogging as a way to have, a really substantial, steady remote income. And so I just kind of went into it, head first. I jumped in and I started taking courses, and I was determined to make it work. And I did that in 2017. So that's when that all got started. And that's how I discovered that blogs make money. And it's just something that still floors me to this day, that this is actually happening and that it's possible. And it's possible for everyone, which I'm really excited about too.
Yeah, it is possible. Yeah, it blows my mind as well. And so that's why I'm excited to kind of learn a little bit more from you. So you didn't know how to blog initially.
No.
So what did you do to make yourself better, like really learn about it? How did you go about that?
Yeah, so what I did was I immediately enrolled in a blogging course. And that was in July of 2017, just 1 month after I started my site. And I was living on unemployment. I was not making much income at the time. I was living on the sailboat with Tom, and I was just not making much money. So I invested in this course, and it was $800. And I remember, how scary that was in the beginning to put so much money into a course, not even knowing if it would pan out. But I was very determined, and I had some savings, and I'm like, I'm going to do this. And so that course was called Elite Blog Academy. It's probably not one I would recommend now to people. But back then in 2017, it was, really good for me to figure out the basics of setting up a site and getting going and learning about product creation and all these aspects of online business that I really just had no idea about. I was a total beginner coming from a totally different background. And so I was like, I'm going to treat this as a degree. I'm going to learn something totally new. And so I really put the time and effort into, learning and treating it as a new degree, because there's so much to learn with blogging or niche sites or online business. I'm still learning. So that's how I approached it, like right from the beginning.
Yeah. And what were your articles initially that you were writing about? Just your life and like what you were doing, or?
Actually, what I started writing about in the beginning was what other nomads were doing. So I would use my radio, journalist skills, and I would set up interviews with nomads. And I would write these articles interviewing them about their life and how they made it happen and what they were doing. And I did that because I noticed in the local news, kind of back in those days in 2017, the nomad thing was up and coming, like the van life, the sailboat living, how to live on a school bus. And I noticed that all the publications that covered these were getting huge amounts of traffic and social shares. And it seemed like there was tons of interest in this. And so I figured I'm just going to create a whole site about nomad living because it seems like there's interest out there. And so I started by writing those kinds of articles. And I was really lucky that I had friends from the media over at a SF Gate, which is a San Francisco newspaper, and they have a digital version. And so they started republishing some of my blog posts. And that's how I got my traffic initially. And that really helped me with my website domain authority. I know that's not possible for everyone to do that, but I did utilize that a lot in the beginning to get that traffic to my site and those articles right off the bat.
And then, I mean, I guess from some experience, but from learning from others too, that you really should write more for your audience. Did you learn that? And then, I mean, obviously, it looks like you have, but how did you learn that?
Yeah, so I do try to write helpful articles for my audience. And I also try to find articles that people are searching for on Google. So I didn't do that in the beginning. I was more writing people's personal stories, what they were doing. They weren't necessarily helpful articles. They were more articles to entertain. And therefore, they also did not have any SEO aspects to them. So I really wasn't ranking very much on Google. I started a Pinterest account. I learned about Pinterest, and I initially did get a lot of traffic from Pinterest, creating pins for people that don't know. And then you upload those to Pinterest with links to your site. And Pinterest is like a search engine in itself. And so that's how I got a lot of my traffic in the beginning. But later I learned more. I should be writing for, what people want to know on Google and what they're typing into Google, and let me be helpful and supportive and write these articles I know people are searching for, because that's really how a website gets traffic, is writing for your audience and what they're looking for on Google.
Correct. And then you saw a difference in that, correct?
Yeah. I saw a huge boost in traffic. I'm always the learner and trying to figure out new things. So I took a course on SEO, stupid, simple SEO. And I just worked. I doubled down on that course, like working 8-hour days. My local gym had a little like cafe in it with internet. And I would just sit there for hours, 8-10 hours a day, just studying SEO and rewriting and writing new articles. And that really skyrocketed my traffic. And I noticed a huge difference when I started focusing on SEO and keywords. And so that was like a light bulb moment in the evolution of my site for sure.
Right. How did you first learn about SEO and really implement it? Did you use any plugins or?
Yeah. So I took the course, the Stupid Simple SEO, and he recommended using Ahrefs to find keywords and like top pages with keywords to try to figure out ideas.
Ahrefs, can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so that's a keyword research software that you sign up
Okay.
for. And you can use that to investigate keywords, and you can see their search volume and kind of how competitive they are. And it helps you create a strategy for your own site if you can find keywords within your niche, and then you
Right.
craft articles around those keywords. So I learned all about how to do that. And that was really a vital thing to learn and do.
Is that like you have to pay for that to sign up, or is that free?
Yeah, that is a paid keyword research tool. And
Okay.
I currently share it. What a lot of bloggers do, because it is expensive, it's $100 a month. What a lot of
Okay.
bloggers do is they will share it. So I currently share it with maybe I think it's 3 or 4 other people. So I only pay about 20, $25 a month for it. And I get a certain time slot, like 2-3 hours a day when I can use it. And so that's a nice thing, is that you don't have to pay for these expensive tools. And there are free
Okay.
tools out there as well, or cheaper ones. But I
Right.
found that Ahrefs has provided me a wealth of keyword data. And so that's why I really love that particular platform.
Okay. So SEO is a big deal, obviously. And what are some benefits of this SEO over just, posting and sharing on social media, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So I found that, social media is pretty fickle. Facebook, I guess in the past, bloggers used to get a ton of traffic by posting to Facebook. But over the years, Facebook has changed its algorithm a lot. And people have noticed their organic reach really, falling off of Facebook, because Facebook wants to keep you on Facebook. They don't want people clicking off Facebook, going to read articles on other sites and taking attention away from Facebook. And so they were like, well, you got to pay to play. So you can run Facebook ads to your articles, but of course that's not free traffic. And the beauty of writing SEO articles is that they rank on Google and it's totally free. Like my page views are very high. They get up to, 400,000 to 500,000 a month of page views, and 75% of that comes from Google and is free traffic. And the other, 25% or so comes from Pinterest still, and my email list and other, forms of direct traffic. But SEO is really wonderful because it also follows a formula that I understand. I know that I can write an article in a certain way. I actually have hired writers now and they write in this way, but it can be personable and it can help the reader, yet it has these formulaic aspects that rank it on Google. Google recognizes it as an article about a certain topic. And to me, it just makes sense for my brain, where I don't really understand the Facebook algorithm. And Pinterest, I have a Pinterest manager for, because I don't enjoy that platform very much. But Google, I feel like I understand it. And I like that. I like the predictability of it. And so that's what I really love about SEO.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I don't know if we mentioned it, but the keywords and keyword research and keywords that you type in. What are your keyword research tips?
Yeah, what's interesting is, some courses that you take will teach you to look at competitors' keywords and their top pages. And the course will teach you to, go after those top pages, write a better article, but on the same keyword or topic. And while I have done that in the past, it's not my favorite way, because you're pretty much, trying to outrank another person constantly. And to me, people are doing that to me constantly as well. And it's just not as fun. It's just, I know it's the name of the game with SEO, and people just do that to each other, constantly. But what I love to do is I go into Ahrefs and I look for keywords that nobody has written about yet. And being that there's not, tons and tons of blogs on these nomadic topics, there's not huge amounts of corporate competition or these, tons of websites writing about this stuff. So I can find those special, gold nugget keywords that people really haven't covered. And if I do find a keyword someone else has written about, I try to write also a completely different article with a completely different angle, instead of just trying to do what they did, but better or maybe more info. I try to make it totally different. And so I really hunt in the keyword research tool to find those special hidden keywords. And what's funny is sometimes Google will rank my articles for random keywords as well that I didn't choose. And I look through those keywords and I'm like, oh, that could be its own article. So I'm actually looking throughout my own keywords to find new article topics, and so that I can expand on in another article. And so I really do like finding those little gems that not everyone is writing about. And therefore it's easier to rank it. If you're trying to write what 10 other, RVers have written about, then it's pretty hard to rank. And I have seen that, where I'll research a keyword and the top 10 results are all a different RV blog. And I'm like, nope, that's too competitive for me. I don't want to do that. So those are my main tips, is try to find the low competition and longer tail keywords, which means they have more than one word. Like, I don't know, a random example, like how to find free camping in South Dakota. Like that has a lot of words. And so something that has more
Right.
words like that can be also, if
Mhm.
you target that phrase, it can be easier to rank for that than just like camping in South Dakota. You're making a very specific article about a very specific query. And so that's
Right.
what I like to do.
Right. No, that's very smart. So, talking about the niche website, how does someone go about choosing their niche website? Maybe they have a bunch of ideas in their head. And how do you know it's going to be profitable? All that.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to that. And
Mm-hmm.
what I like to do is I start my research over on Google, and I like to add some plugin extensions to Google Chrome. I guess they're called Google
Mm-hmm.
Chrome extensions. And you can use like the Moz bar or the Keywords Everywhere tool, and that'll
Yeah.
tell you someone's domain authority. And what I like to do is just randomly start typing in keywords to Google that I think would be in that certain topic. And I try to see what types of results are coming up. Like if a keyword or a niche is very competitive, like email marketing, and you go over to Google, you type in like email marketing tips, you'll see like all these really high DA websites ranking. And then I kind of know, well, that niche seems too competitive. That seems like there's no way I would get articles ranking unless I spend years and years building the site, getting authority, getting backlinks. That's a lot of work, So
That is.
yeah. So if you choose like a different topic that you're interested in, like knitting or something, you can just come up with some phrases that you think someone would be interested in and see who's ranking. And then look at their domain authority, click through to their site and look at what types of blog posts they're writing. And you can even look and see if they're on an ad network like Mediavine or AdThrive. I look at that and I know if someone's on one of those ad networks, they're probably making a decent living off of ads. And then I know like, oh, maybe that's a good niche because they made it onto these ad networks. And so I'll look at that. And then I look and see if they have affiliate articles. And it's best if the sites are low DA and they're doing this well.
Yeah.
Then like that's a lower competition idea. So that's how I get started in assessing, a niche site's competition and whether I could rank rather quickly on it. So yeah, that's what I do.
And then do you really need to be, probably would help, but do you need to be an expert in that niche?
Yeah, so it really depends on what you're writing about. Google has some ranking factors that they call EAT, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. And they actually just added another E onto that for experience. And so you really have to be an expert if you're writing about something that influences somebody's, health or money or life or, something where you do need to have a level of skill and technicality involved. Like you can't just start a website on a certain disease or a certain problem without being a doctor or being a nurse practitioner. So those types of fields or wealth management, for example, really do require you to be an expert. But if you're writing about hiking or, or nomad van life, like what I write about, you don't have to be an expert, but it helps if you have experience. And that's where that other E in the EEAT ranking factors come from. Is, Google likes it if you write an article and you show you've done that thing or you enjoy doing that. Or if you write about a certain hiking trail, you've actually done the hiking trail and you can, offer your opinions or gear ideas. So I do think it's good to, have some form of experience or interest, especially in your niche. So I try to advise people to figure out, what are your hobbies? What are your passions? Can you expand on any of those into creating, a niche site surrounding that where you can actually be your own expert based on your experience level with that topic. So it is important and more important in certain niches than other niches for sure.
Yeah. My husband and I, we have our own website, Reset Your Journey. We had a YouTube channel, Reset Your Journey. And when we traveled in our RV all over the country, we documented our lives and we also, problems that came up along the way. We blogged about that and vlogged about it. But I feel like we definitely needed to take it more of the route of you have, writing more things and making more videos about really what the audience is searching for and not necessarily just your life. And we tried to intertwine it, but I think you really have inspired me now to kind of get back and veer off in a better direction with that. So thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Because if you're traveling around in your RV, for example, and you want to start a site like a hiking site, and you have the chance to go to all these trails and explore them because you're traveling full time. And so once you have that keyword research and idea, it can actually, inform your future travels or where you go or what you're going to be reviewing or what products you want to review on your site. And so, there's like that combination of, keyword research, but also writing it for the audience because you don't want to sound like a robot when you're writing the articles as well.
No. And we've written ones that were, we've done these hikes and stuff, but I feel like, like what you say, you definitely can expand on that. Maybe you didn't do some of these specific hikes, but, do the ones you did and then research, right? Is that what you recommend? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You don't have to do every single thing you write about on your site for sure. I know a lot of travel bloggers out there haven't visited every destination they write about, but they do thoroughly research that destination and, put on the journalist hat and like do the pros and cons and, all the different aspects someone might want to know because the goal of the article is that the person finds out everything they want to know on that topic in your article. So they're not going back to Google and like needing to read like 10 articles to find out what they want. So you want to write an article that encompasses, everything they might want to know about that particular topic. And that just requires, the research and the long form writing and, all that stuff.
Yeah, all the stuff. So your website, travel blogging, but you're making your money off of ad revenue and no courses as of yet, correct?
I recently did a course, actually. I put it together and it was just released in January and it's about niche sites.
Oh, okay. Somehow I missed that. Yeah.
Yeah. But most of my revenue is advertising.
Which blows my mind. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. That was my goal in the beginning, was to create an advertising based site because, I wasn't super excited in the beginning about having to sell things. And so I wanted to provide information, and in exchange for the information, people would have to see ads once in a while. And I know there's pros and cons to that, but that was definitely my goal, is to like have a more information-based site. And I do have affiliate articles, probably 25-30% of my income is affiliates. And then I'm trying to grow more from product-based income because I feel like that's something I own, I have more control over. And that's why I decided to do that, is just to branch out into this other area because, advertising revenue can fall off. If you go through an economic recession, the advertisers are not, paying as much. If you lose Google traffic, you're not, if you, get hit by a Google update, you're not going to make the ad revenue or the affiliate income. But if you have an email list and you have a product and you have a strategy surrounding that product, then you're able to have that other income stream in case something happens to the other two or three or whatever you have.
That's smart.
Yeah. So my goal was to create, that as well. And so that was what I've been working on the last few months.
Good. Now, I've read more about scaling a website. Can you explain a little bit more about what scaling is and then how you did it to yours?
Yeah. So scaling is basically when you hire people to help you grow your site, because my goal with my site originally was that it would run itself while I was, traveling around in my sailboat in my van. And my first trip was a sailboat trip down Baja, California. And I knew, and this was before, Starlink or any forms of internet, that I was probably going to be off my computer for a long time, like a month or 6 weeks, and maybe even longer as I traveled up the other side of Baja with no internet. And my goal was like, I need this site to keep running without me. And so I went and I hired a virtual assistant, and she was in charge of uploading articles from my writers into the site. And so I also hired the writers, like 2 or 3 writers. And so they were the ones filling my site with content, and the virtual assistant would upload those. So I didn't even have to be involved in it. And so that's how I scaled the site, is hiring the writers and hiring the virtual assistant, which I still have to this day. It's been a really good business model for me. I think I started doing that in 2019, a couple of years after starting my site. And I do all the keyword research still. I create the outlines, but hiring will really help someone scale a site way faster than trying to write every article yourself, because that gets pretty, that's hard.
Yeah, that's hard.
Write all those articles. I still don't even write that many articles now. Most of it goes on to my freelance writers, so I can focus on other aspects of my business. So, and you can find, cheaper writers. I don't totally recommend that. I like to pay writers, a decent amount, because I used to be a writer.
True.
And I know how it is. And so I pay them typically about 10 cents a word. And so, and they're really good, and they're excellent writers, and they know how to write for SEO, and they're actually living the nomad life. So I love to hire fellow nomads. And so that's my way of scaling my site. But I would just recommend, if there's certain things you don't like to do on your site and you have some income, start hiring them out. Like, I think the first outsource. Yeah. Like, I hate graphic design. So I hired, I have a graphic designer and I don't like Pinterest. I have a Pinterest manager, but I slowly scaled it up by hiring those positions that I don't like to do. So that's what I did initially.
And these writers, though, how do you find these writers and how do you find them that are within your niche and, know what you want to be writing about?
Yeah. So a couple of them were actually like word of mouth or people that I had followed on social media for some time. So one of my writers is a woman that lived on a sailboat for many years. And I just reached out to her one day because I followed her and we were kind of in touch. And I said, do you do freelance writing? And so she started writing for me and writing, a lot of my boat articles on my site. And she now does other types of articles, but she's excellent. And so I've kind of found her through, my personal connections. And then another way is I posted an ad on problogger.com. And you do have to pay to post an ad there, like $70 or something. But I really wanted some quality leads. And so I've found, I think I still use them, but it was probably 3 years ago is when I posted that ad. And I'm still using those writers. One was a van life writer and one was an RVing writer that live that lifestyle because I wanted them to know how to do that. But even more recently, I've found another van life writer just through Instagram. She's with Boondock Consulting, which I just love. She's a nomad. She lives in her van. And so I hired her to do some more, blog and copywriting for me. So there's so many different places to find writers, and it depends on, what background you want for that writer, what your values are surrounding that writer, and what, who you want to hire. Because a lot of people will just go and hire like content writers that don't have a background in that niche. But I just don't like to do that. I like someone to have the expertise.
Yeah, it doesn't seem right.
I know. It's weird to me. I'm like, but I know people do that, but it's just not part of what I want to do.
Yeah, so. I understand.
Yeah.
So with your site now, what are the type of things that you're doing now for your site? Like what's your day-to-day or month-to-month? What's your process?
Yeah. So a big part of when you have a site, I have over 400 articles on my site now. And so a big part of, when you get to have a lot of articles like that is to be updating older content. Because if there's content that is on page 2 or 3 of Google, just a simple update will help propel that article back onto the first page. So I spend time looking at what's dropped in rankings. And then I typically assign that to one of my writers. They do post updates for me. And then I try to get those articles ranking again because I don't want everything to just fall off the map and like stop ranking. And so I do that. I look at old content and I also do keyword research. I assign that out to the writers and I work on my email marketing regularly. That's something I'm still trying to learn and hone in. And now I'm trying to learn how to do like Facebook ads, which are targeting people to go to my email list as a way to sell my course. So I'm kind of working on a lot of online business, big picture kind of things right now. And I've, stepped back from that daily grind of writing or uploading, finding photos, those kinds of things. I've outsourced all that. So I'm focusing more on like, how do I grow this as from an online business perspective? Like, what do I need to be thinking about and focusing on? And a lot of that is, the email marketing and getting more leads because the email list is where your people are. And I love
That's
that.
true.
And I love writing to them and having them interact with me and, giving them
it's
things.
An audience. Yeah, it's an audience that and that they want to be there and,
Yeah. So that's something I definitely highly recommend is having that email list. And I try to email them once a week and the same people write me back. And it just makes me very happy that I'm helping that group of people. And that's really important to me as well. So those are kind of the things I do on a regular basis. But sometimes due to the site running itself, sometimes I just don't, I feel like I don't have to work, which is amazing as well. So, and I'm working on my weekly podcast, which as you know, is some work as well.
Yes. Oh, it's a great podcast.
Yeah. So that's another thing that I'm putting effort into because I learned that anything that creates a connection with your audience is a good thing to be working on. And a podcast creates a connection because people are hearing your voice. They see your personality. So that, and even a YouTube, channel, which I don't want to do YouTube, but people do.
Hard.
It's hard.
It's
the editing.
Hard.
Yeah, but
it's hard.
Seeing
Hours
your
and
face.
hours.
Yeah, hours.
I
and
know.
hours.
Seeing your face. Yep.
But yeah, doing short videos is, a way for people to get to know you as well. It doesn't require as much editing because that just blows my mind how much YouTubers spend on editing. I'm like, oh my gosh, so much work. I like passive income models.
Right. I know. That's our next step. Earlier, when you said letting the business run on its own, are you absolutely doing nothing? Or like, how does that work for real?
Yeah. What's interesting is the business would run on its own if I assign typically about 4 to 5 articles a month. And let's say I could do all that keyword research in about an hour. So technically, I could step away after that and things would keep running. I'm pretty confident of that. But
with your writers and
the virtual
VA.
assistant.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. And the way that I already have a pretty high DA on my site, and I have if I'm choosing the right keywords, these articles will just keep ranking and the ad revenue will keep going up. But I do my own keyword research because I'm very picky about what keywords to target. And so I still do that. But really, after I do that, it can run itself. But I definitely choose to work because I really enjoy working on it. It's like one of my favorite things to do. So I have to like tear myself away from it. It's like, Kristin, go do something else. Because I just love it. It's so fun. And that's the beauty of doing online business is you own it. It's yours. And it's really fun, especially if it's a topic you love. So I highly recommend that.
So someone just starting out with this or very early on, maybe in their website development, they shouldn't, just take time away from it. They really need to put that work in, correct? Just every day. Yeah. Learn.
Oh,
do.
Yes. In the beginning, it was insane just how many I would work hours, every single day because I was stationary in San Francisco. And that was actually really beneficial to developing this site. I think it'd be hard to be traveling full time and find that time to work and grow it.
I would have to agree with that. Yes.
Yeah. So we were stable in the Bay Area we just left in 2020, actually. So for the first 3 years, I was just like 40 hours a week on the site, like just sitting at the gym, working my butt off and like making no money. So it's hard. Like some people get very discouraged by that in the beginning, like you just don't see money coming in and you're just spending so much time and you're learning and you're spending money on courses and you're like, when is this going to pay off? And I know that can get frustrating. So
how long did it take for you to see some income?
So it took 6 months. And then I made some private ad revenue from a company called 4-Wheel Campers. And he reached out to me and he's like, I want to put banner ads on your site. And I was like, what? And I said, how about $500 a month? And he said, okay.
Sure.
I still work with him to this day on a sponsored post, but he was my original advertiser. And once he put those ads on my site, I just got so excited. I'm like, this can make money. There's potential in this idea. And I just kept working on it and I got on Mediavine and that was only making like $20 a month at first from ads, but I was seeing that income coming in and that just kept me motivated because I also knew that other people were making good money and I was reading their income reports online and I was following other bloggers. And so I knew like it's possible. So I'm like, I'm going to do it. I have to do it. So I just kept working really hard.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Mediavine and what the criteria is for that once you have your website?
Yeah, for sure. So luckily, when I first started my site, Mediavine only required 25,000 sessions per month to join. But in the years since, they have increased that to 50,000, which is a lot. I know it takes a long time to get to 50,000. But there are other ad networks out there as well for people that are making fewer page views per month. I think like Ezoic is 10,000 a month.
Okay.
So there's other options. I know in the beginning I signed up for Google AdSense and I put those ads on my site and it was making me like 50 cents a day or less. It was kind of funny, or like maybe it was like 5 cents. But once I transitioned to Mediavine, I noticed, it went from making like 50 cents a day to $20 a day. So it was like a huge change in revenue when I was able to join a premium ad network. But you do have to spend tons of time growing your traffic before you can get on an ad network like that.
Right. So also, would you mind telling us what your digital financial overhead is right now? Like at this point, I know when you were starting out, there probably wasn't too much, but
yeah, like the expenses of running the site.
Yes.
Yeah. So, that's probably most of the expenses go to the writers actually, because probably each article is anywhere from $200 to $300 a month. And if I'm doing like 4 to 6 articles a month, that's where, so I put like quite a bit of money, maybe, it's off the top of my head. It might be like 2,000 to 3,000 a month. And what I'm paying people, those are the writers. That's the Pinterest VA. That's my other VA. graphic designer. And so the people, and that's another way that I got the site to kind of run itself, was being willing to invest money in the content, especially because, while it's money up front, I do know it'll make it back in the long term, especially if I was able to choose the correct keywords that make me back what I paid in ad revenue. And so I look at that, a few times a year. I'm like, okay, I paid $300 for this article. How much has it made me this year? And some do really well and some totally flop and some make zero money. And some will make like, many thousands per year in revenue. And that's recurring revenue. And so anyway, those are my biggest expenses. And then there's the web hosting, which is like $100 a month due to my traffic levels. And then the online tools I use for keyword research, for, social media scheduling. There's all these online tools I also pay for. And those add up really. Like, let's pretend I didn't hire anyone and didn't hire any writers. The overhead would probably be more like $500 to $600 a month, which is not too bad for like a pretty large website operation. So, but in the beginning, obviously it's way lower. You're basically just paying like your domain, your web hosting. Yeah. And any other tools you might want to spend money on. But it definitely doesn't have to be that much in the beginning for sure.
No. And what is your site generating now?
Yeah. And
financial
and like ad income. Yeah. So it's generating like between 20 and 25,000 a month. And that is in, mostly ad revenue. And then I would say like 25% is affiliate, and then growing the course revenue now, which I would like to have that be like one of the prime, also one of the prime income makers. And so, so that's how it's grown over the years, which is amazing that most of that is ad revenue. It's like phenomenal. And that's just from getting page views and finding the right keywords that people are clicking over to.
Right. Yeah. People have to find you. Yeah. You need to have that.
Exactly. And it's pretty stable. And I have gotten hit by Google updates, which have affected my ad revenue. And the ad revenue goes way down in winter and up in the summer. So it's also cyclical. And you have to be prepared to deal with that. Because in the winter, not as many people are looking for, van life and RVing topics.
True.
And in the summer, the search traffic goes up. So I kind of see a swell in ad income in the summer. And then it goes down, and like January is the worst month. But it's kind of interesting that it's been so consistent. Kind of whether I work or don't work, I can check, here's what I made on Mediavine today. It's like, $400 or $500.
Right.
And it was a day I didn't even work. And so I just think that's thrilling.
That's great. Yeah.
Very exciting that keeps happening like on a daily basis.
Yeah. That's awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about, since tax season is upon us, how do you deal with taxes, and do you domicile in a certain state?
Yeah. So I changed to South Dakota in 2021. And I love that state has no income tax, which is really helpful. And then I recently became an S Corp this year in 2023. And so that will reduce my tax burden. So, the more you make, the more you pay in taxes. Sometimes it astounds me, like, oh my gosh, that's my tax bill. But that's just,
ouch.
That's all right. That's how it is. And
I
have an accountant, and she actually does all my taxes because there's no way I could figure out.
Right.
And I don't want to. It's like, that's not what I want to be working on.
That's not another thing you want to put on your plate and learn, right? You want to outsource.
I've tried to learn that I need to focus on things that are going to be like business building or revenue building or connecting with my audience. Like, I need these high level things I focus on, and I need to outsource the other things, because you can get bogged down with an online business. There's so many aspects to it that I think you have to focus on, like, what you're good at, what you love, and what will promote the growth of your business. So that's kind of what I try to think about. But yeah, the taxes for sure are a really big deal.
We used to own a small business 20 years. And thankfully, my husband was really into learning and taxes and doing all that. So he did all our bookwork and our taxes. So thankful for that. But if he didn't, then we'd have to outsource for sure. It gets tricky owning your own business.
Yeah. And there are accountants out there that specialize in blogs and online
small
business. Because we just have such different expenses, than other types of businesses. And it's nice to find someone that specializes in like blog sites or like digital creators. And so that's who I hired, is someone. She has her own food site, and she's also a CPA. And so it's like, perfect.
Oh, perfect. Double duty.
Totally.
So what are some if any, challenges of working on your niche site from the road?
Definitely distractions. Definitely,
Yeah.
especially, I'd say more when we're in the van. It becomes, I guess, in both the boat and the van. But I think the van, we travel more and we're on the road more. And so I'm having less
Oh, yeah.
time to like sit down and really focus on stuff. And
Mhm.
so I find myself, getting distracted. I want to like go on a hike, or I want to, on the boat, I want to
Mhm.
go out snorkeling, or I want to paddleboard. I'm like, I don't like feel like working today. So I guess like
Yeah.
trying to tamp down the distractions is one thing. But then on the flip
Mhm.
side, like I told you before, I love to work. And sometimes I feel like I work and focus too much. And then so on the flip side, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, when do I break away? And I've tried to create a rule for myself, like, oh, 5 p.m., you're not going to work anymore. And so I'm not one of those
Yeah.
people that's going to do like 10, 12-hour days working into the evening. I create that
Good.
hard cutoff. I'm like, nope, it's, over.
Yeah.
And I want to hang out with Tom, my partner. We want to have our happy hour. We want to have an
Right.
evening. And so I
Right.
think maybe if I was by myself, I'd have a harder time with that deadline. But because I want to go hang out with him, it's like a nice
Mhm.
thing. It's
That
like, oh, good.
helps.
It's time to stop working.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's good. Choosing a time, like cutoff time.
Yeah.
And then, I got to get the rest done tomorrow, so that, you unwind and you stop thinking about everything. It's just so much when you own your own business and you're just always thinking about it. Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, creating that work-life balance is super important,
Mhm.
because you don't want to just be into your computer like for so many hours. Because the whole point of traveling the way we do, in RVs or
Mhm.
boats or vans, is to be outside and to like have
Right.
freedom and
Right.
adventure. You don't want to be just looking at a computer constantly. And so that's a good thing to think about and to balance and to like enjoy that freedom from the business you've created, So
Mhm.
it's all very important to keep that, in mind.
Yeah, it is. It is. And so, what do you like best about running a niche site?
Yeah. So I think what I do like best is the fact that you get a lot of freedom out of it. Once you go through that effort of, all the work in the beginning of
Yes.
setting it up, and when it starts making money and you can step away from it, is when it's,
Mhm.
totally amazing, like that freedom. And then the freedom to just choose the topic you write about, because I did a lot of freelance
Mhm.
writing that I wasn't passionate about, or topics that were just not up my
Mhm.
alley. It was so painful to do that writing. And with a niche site or blog, I mean, you're choosing your niche. And hopefully it's something you love and that you could talk about for many hours and you're passionate about. And so that's exciting. And it's also connecting with my audience is one of my other favorite things. It's just when they email me, because I do, mostly communicate with them via email. I love when
Mhm.
people email me back, or when they email me with questions. And I love that connection, because I think also as a nomad, you can feel a little bit outside of society, especially if most
Yeah.
of your friends are housed. But if you're roaming around, people at home might not get it, like get
Mhm.
what you're doing. And so it's fun to
Right.
have that community to interact with that has to do with, especially my niche of nomads, that people are either
Oh,
aspiring
yes.
to do it or they're currently nomads. And you're like, oh yeah, you make me feel not
Right.
as like weird. And so it's fun to have that community surrounding me as well. So that's one of my other favorite things. There's so
Yeah.
many benefits of having a niche
Right.
site or online business. It's just,
Yeah.
amazing.
And yeah, like you said, community, that's so important. I totally
Yeah.
agree. Is there anything you don't care for about doing this, running this blog, this niche site?
That's so hard to say. Probably the thing I don't like and get frustrated with is graphic design. Like
Oh,
if I
yeah, you
have to,
mentioned that earlier.
that's,
Yeah.
and I know, and I keep talking about that because I just hate it, because I feel like everything I
That's
create
okay.
is
Yeah.
terrible.
No. Oh,
It's so
gosh.
funny. It's like, oh no, I have to create a podcast like graphic. And I tried and it was looking so bad. And I was like, nope, I sent it to my graphic designer.
Outsource.
I did. And I'm like,
Yeah.
can you create this in one day for me? And she just shot something back that was beautiful.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
that aspect, I don't really like. But gosh, there's not very many other aspects I don't like that much. So, web design. I don't like web design. That's another one. Is when I
Mhm.
started the Wayward Home, I didn't have money to hire people. And so I designed my own site, and it just, it looked bad. And
Uh-huh.
but that's okay. I want to tell people out there that if you hate web
It's
design or you
okay.
think you are bad at it, it's fine. As long as your homepage looks kind of organized and you're writing articles
Right.
people can find on the internet, it doesn't matter that much what your homepage looks like. And,
Mhm.
several years later, I hired someone to redo my site, and I love what she did with it.
Right.
But I didn't do any of
Right.
that. And I still have a hard time designing sites or doing any kind of design work. And I guess that all goes with the graphic design. It's just my brain isn't organized in that particular way. but definitely everyone will find out what they like and don't like about running a website for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. So for the brand new travel blogger that's just starting out, or maybe they're just trying to grow and they're trying so hard, what are some of your best tips and advice for them right now?
Really, it's to learn how to do keyword research. However that may be, there's podcasts I'm sure that you can listen to on keyword research. There's free trainings. You can, research it online. I do, like, if you do have income, I do suggest investing in courses. Like, that's what I did to learn, because I do think that, you can make that money back if you know how to write for SEO, especially, because you're going to get ad revenue on that one day, or you're going to get affiliate income on that one day. But learning SEO is huge, and just keeping with it, just having the mindset that this is going to be challenging at first. It's going to take a ton of time and effort, and that's okay. Just keep with it. Don't get frustrated. Don't stop because you haven't made any money yet. It's an ongoing process and a challenge. And I think a lot of people do quit because they're not seeing the return. But it's time consuming. It's not necessarily like difficult once you learn the certain aspects of how to write a blog post. Because I didn't know that either, how to write a blog post. I would just write these really long chunks of text. I was like, what's a subheading? Like, what does that even mean? So I had to learn even how to write and format a post for the internet. And so there's all these things, like formulaic aspects of blogging, that you need to learn. But once you learn those things, you just keep applying it over and over and over. And it doesn't have to be particularly difficult once you kind of have those foundations down. So I'd encourage people to learn those. And also, keep trying and keep writing. It's just, it'll turn out, if you follow some of those main foundational principles.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I feel like sometimes in the RV world, there's so many people doing it right now, but I guess there is still enough out there. And if you research your keywords and your SEO and you learn all you can, I mean, you just have to be on top of it, but there still can be a niche out there for you.
Yeah, I think so too. And once you research that niche, like I was saying, like looking at the competition and how many keywords there are, you can also look at keyword data using like the Keywords Everywhere Google Chrome extension, which is really affordable. And then you can kind of look at keywords and their volumes and competition, and that'll give you an idea of, various things you could write on your site. But I do think there's enough keywords for everyone, because there's so many that people just haven't found yet. And so you just have to do your digging and find them. They're out there. And there's ones that other people haven't touched yet. You just have to know where and how to look for them, I guess. So I do think that there's competition, but there is, plenty of articles that need to be written still.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So my big question is, now that with the whole AI stuff going around, what are your thoughts on AI? Do you think it's going to hurt or help bloggers? Do you think it's a good resource?
Yeah, that's something that I grapple with, off and on, because coming from a journalistic background, I just love writers, like real people. I do think AI has its place, though. I've experimented with it quite a bit, and it can come up with a pretty good bare bones, like outline or bare bones article, for example. But then you have to go in there and massage that article quite a bit. You have to like fact check that article, rewrite the article to include your voice and your experience. But you can use it, for example, like to outline a blog post, which is really cool. And that can give you like the headings that you should touch on. So that's one way to use it. Or sometimes I use it to help me create titles, because I'm not, super good at writing blog posts or even podcast titles. And so I'll ask it to help me create titles, and then it will create full blog posts for you. I'm experimenting with one called Koala AI right now. And you give it like a keyword and you tell it what voice you want it to write in, and it will spit out a full article. But it does require quite a bit of massaging, before I would even post something from that. But it is going to explode the amount of content on the internet, though. And I don't know what's going to happen, over the next couple months or years with this explosion of content, or how Google is going to rank it, or what they're going to think about it. And so I'm slightly hesitant to use it that much. I'd rather invest in my writers. But I do think it'll change the landscape, but I don't really know how yet.
Yeah.
But it's definitely here to stay. And it's definitely new. I mean, new apps come out every day and new ways to use AI. So it's definitely going to be there. And I think it's a good thing to pay attention to and learn how to use it, especially for things you don't like doing, like the headlines or the topic. Like I went to it and I asked it, like, what are like 10 podcast episodes about van life that I could do. And it spit out like all these different interesting ideas. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
Wow.
That's a good way to use AI. And so you're not really using it to create all this content, but just ideas. And I think it's really cool
and
for
topics.
that. Yeah, I definitely like it for that.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my husband and I, we have experience with a couple blogs and we're trying to start a new one. And he recently was experimenting with this AI for both CSS coding and like the actual content. And it was just all an experiment. He's just curious, but he asked it very specific questions and it did very well and was pretty accurate. This was technical, this is more scientific stuff, but it was not maybe to the scientific depth that we're used to, but it did a decent job. But yeah, I agree. You still have to fiddle around with it and make it right the way you want it.
Yeah.
So.
And a lot of AI I was finding was like spitting out like all this wrong info. And to me, that's very time consuming to have to like, it's probably getting better, you know, every day, but it's time consuming to go back and be like, was that accurate? Was that accurate? And like to have to fact check everything. But I do think it's getting better. I think they were saying like chat AI or the chat GPT, I think it only had data to like 2021 or something. So it doesn't have the most up-to-date information. Okay. And so...
But it will.
I'm sure it will one day. These things are just, developing so fast. It's insane.
Oh my gosh, it is insane. All right. So quick, on your site, you have a free email course that I was kind of going through that a little bit. It's very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, about blogging. Yes. And then now you have this other course that you just rolled out. Can you explain a little bit? Why don't you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So that one's called Niche Sites Made Easy. And the reason why I developed this one is because I kind of made it in a way that I would have wanted to learn at the beginning. So it's for people who have no like experience in this at all. It's not like for an advanced SEO blogger, for example, but it's like how I have like a whole module on like how to choose your niche, which is what we talked about with the competition and the keywords. And then I have modules about how to like even set up your site on WordPress, how to design your site if you're not a designer like me and what I do. And then I dive deep into like the keyword research, the content writing, the scaling. So it's kind of like how to grow a site from the ground up for people who have no idea how to do it. I wanted to make it basic, short videos, but with a lot of info. And so it was everything I wish I had known in the beginning instead of taking Elite Blog Academy, which was fine, but it didn't talk about SEO, which I think is so important, you know? And so that's why I developed this as a way to teach nomads how to make that passive income that I've achieved, because I do think I came from a background of knowing nothing. And I hope it inspires people like that if you know nothing, it's still possible. You just have to learn the right things. And I was trying to include that in my course, but it's brand new. It came out in January. And so people have given me good feedback, but I do want to teach people because it's just so fun. And it's just such a good way to make money as a nomad. It's just, I think it's an amazing thing.
So how many steps are there? And it's video based, correct?
Yeah, it's video based and it has some text underneath it too, but it's mostly video based. And I tried to keep them short because I've taken courses that have like 30-minute videos and I'm like, I just can't watch a 30-minute video right now. So I tried to keep mine pretty short so people can digest it, go back, revisit. But it has 8 modules, so it's not too intense.
That's not bad. Yeah.
But, you know, each one has, I don't know, a range of videos, you know, 5 to 10 videos about going in depth on each of those topics of niche site creation. And so I actually started another niche site in January to kind of test my theories, because obviously I started the Wayward Home in 2017 and I was doing the keyword research I suggest on stuff. And that's already getting, you know, like it's ranking for, I think like a couple, like 1,000 or 2,000 keywords, and it's getting like 1,000 a month traffic.
Well, that's a neat test to see.
Yeah, I just wanted to try it and see, you know, if it was working like I say it does, and it is.
Right. And so, I would want to know that. That's a good question. That's a good thing you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And so I started it and it's doing really well. And I'm like, oh, good. These methods are still sound.
Right. You're proving what you're talking about.
Exactly. I wanted to create a case study. And so that's kind of something else I've been working on the side. So so I'm just really into the whole niche site thing right now, because I just think it's great. And there's so many topics available for people to write about. It's like sky's the limit. So it's pretty fun.
Right. And how much is this course?
Yeah, so for full price, it's $197. But I'm going to add a coupon for people who listen. It would be $147, and I will give you that link,
yeah.
and so you can
We'll
add
put
it.
that in the show notes.
Yeah, so you can add that. I wanted to keep it affordable because, as I know, as a nomad, not everyone's starting out with like a ton of money to invest in courses and products, and it's scary to, pay for something that if you're not making any money at it yet.
Yeah.
And so it was important for me to like keep it at a good rate. So.
No, I'm sure everyone here, all our listeners, we will all appreciate that. So thank you.
Yeah, totally. And so, I'm available like for questions. I have people email me, and I love, talking to people and answering their questions. So it's not like they'll buy it and I'm totally gone forever. It's like, I'm available.
That's good. Questions. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. That's important.
Yeah. I love helping people succeed. It's really important to me. So yeah, I'm really excited about all of it.
Oh, this is all awesome. Is there anything else? I don't know. I think we covered everything. Is there anything else you would like to say about what you do or travel blogging, creating this profitable niche site?
Yeah, we covered so much. It was really great how in-depth you went, because I think it really gives people an overview of what it's like and the pros and cons. And I just, encourage people to go for it. I do think that people should like to write. That's definitely something that people should have in the beginning until they can afford to outsource. I do know some niche site owners immediately outsource writers, but that costs, quite a bit of money. So enjoying writing about your topic and enjoying the process of writing, I think, is important to people's success. And if you love to learn, if you love to implement new ideas and to be constantly learning, then this is definitely a good business model for you. Like, I'm still taking courses. And so 5 years later, so there's always something to learn, which is something that's I love, because I have a very inquisitive brain. I like to do something where I'm always learning. So that's definitely another benefit I didn't mention before. So yeah.
No, definitely. No, I homeschool my boys, and we are always learning. I tell them we are learning all the time in life. We don't have to be sitting down at a desk looking at a book,
So true. Yeah.
That's great.
100%. That's amazing.
So Kristin, I really love what you've created, this asset that just creates revenue for you, even if you're not running it at times. So that's really a plus. And you gave us a lot of very useful info today. Good. So if someone wants to get in touch with you, they want to take your course, where can we find you?
Yeah, so definitely over on thewaywardhome.com. And then I'm also on Instagram, The Wayward Home, and Facebook, The Wayward Home. And then I'm at Kristin at thewaywardhome.com. But yes, I do have also a free intro email course, which is 5 days. So people want to just kind of get an idea of what niche sites are about and a little more info. They can do that, or they can do the full course if they're ready to jump in. And so yeah, so that stuff's available on my website, and I'm sure it's also in the show notes if people want to, look there. It'll be easy to find. And so, yeah, there's a lot of different options for people to reach me. I love chatting with people, send me a DM on Instagram or however you want to talk to me. I'm available on all those channels. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Kristin, so much for taking the time today to speak with me. And like I said, I'll be sure to put all that information in the show notes. So thank you.
Awesome. This was so fun. And yeah, I really enjoyed meeting you and speaking with you. And I hope that people learned a little more about niche sites with our talk today. And yeah, just something I'm very passionate about, obviously.
I can tell. That's awesome. Thank you. Well, I hope you enjoyed and learned something from this episode with Kristin. I know I did. If you're interested in getting started with van life, want to know more about tiny living, or maybe you want to learn more about travel blogging and how you can make money doing it, check out Kristin's website by clicking on the links in these show notes. And for all our listeners, Kristin has offered a 20% off coupon code for her Niche Sites Made Easy course, which I'll also put in these show notes. As always, thank you guys for taking the time to listen today. You are all appreciated. Until next time, be well.